Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good Friday morning. Wait, where's Lauren? Who's this guy? It's me. It's D Grant here with you for Bathrobe Moments as a pseudo special guest. But Lauren is going to be doing some traveling today, going to Boston and doing some awesome stuff. He will be back on Monday, so don't worry. And in his stead is the growth farmer, D. Grant Smith, your friend. Hey, I was here yesterday, right? Oh, yes, for the Christmas show. And I learned a very valuable lesson. Actually, I learned several valuable lessons yesterday. One, we Christmas it up here on Bathrobe Moments, and I was not aware of that. So I had to go do some little coordination of the clothing. And I don't know if you noticed, I had a red bow tie on that was inspired by Lauren, of all people. But enough of that. We have a very exciting show for you today. A wonderful, beautiful, amazing guest that is not a stranger to this show either, Miss TABATHIA Porter. I'm so excited to get to talk with her. She's got a brand new book coming out, and she's got just an incredible story, an incredibly inspirational and soulful and beautiful person. Her soul and her heart and her story is such a very, very beautiful thing. On the subject of her book, and before we bring her out here, I want you to experience this for yourself. So this is what we have coming up for you today. Are you blown away? Because I am. I've heard this lady's story, and I'm excited to hear about her journey because it is just that. And this is so riveting, it's beyond words, but let's welcome her in. She's coming up in just a sec. Here we go. Welcome to you, Miss TABATHIA Porter. It's so good to see you and so good to have you and your mom here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, please tell us about your book. And I know you were on the show in October. You've shared some of your story here on Bathrobe Moments, and like the more I watched you and Lauren's conversation, the more that I've heard about your story, like to see your face and to feel the energy that you evoke and that you bring, it's such a joyful, loving, soothing energy. But to know the story of the person that came behind that, I'm going to say something that was said to me because I think it applies to you as well. Your oil wasn't cheap.
No.
So will you tell us a little bit about what your book is? The trailer for that played like a movie trailer, and I believe that was kind of intentional. But will you tell us a little bit about your story and what it is that your book is really featuring, and what the message behind the message is?
Well, the story, without saying too much, because I want you to buy the book, of course, the story is about minor sex abuse and what the trauma and the travail looks like from the beginning of the trauma and to the end of victory. And so, as a child being sexually abused, it has its own set of trauma, childhood trauma, aside of all the other trauma that you would have experiencing sexual abuse. So, as a child, you're thinking about, how do I process being touched inappropriately as a little girl, and what that does to your mental health and the fact that you've been threatened not to tell. And so, of course, I have my mother sitting here, and of course, I'm my only child. She was always my go-to. And so, to not have the ability to share what I was experiencing, I can't think of a word that you could really say that would fit the description of what that felt like as an 11-year-old child.
Mm. So silent pain, silent suffering, and I guess in a way, like metaphorically, feeling like you've got a bag over your head and you can't like let out any of the things that are going on the inside of that. But also, I'm taking from your conversation previously with Lauren, as well as what your trailer, your book trailer, illustrates. Talked about dreams deferred, and there was some scenes and stuff that implied drug use and some other things. But it sounds like, and it would seem like, when you are in a place of experiencing so much emotional and psychological torment, and not feeling like there's an outlet or anybody that you can talk with about that situation, and you feel totally trapped, you do anything you can to try to escape that pain. Will you tell us a little bit of that story?
Well, I was blessed to have been introduced to the arts at a very young age and had a gift, just a natural, innate gift for music, theater, and dance. And so I was blessed enough to be able to have something to emerge myself into that didn't take the focus off of, but it gave me something else to look at and put myself in. And it was something that I had a passion for, something that I loved. And so there were times that I could escape the misery of what I was going to when I would create. I would write plays. I'm a singer, and I am a playwriter. And so, with that being said, I was able to write, and I was able to sing and create. I choreographed dance. And so the creative portion started coming out of me huge, in a large way at a very, very young age. Had no clue that years later all of this would happen. I was trapped in the trauma, so I could have never seen any of this coming, because speaking about it was the thing that I had really intended to take to my grave.
Mm. So being able to channel that torment and that pain and give it some expression, give it a way for it to flow out of you. How will you describe what that process was? Because I'm a writer myself as well, and I've used writing and storytelling as a way to not only understand some of the details, but for me to do my own deep dive into my soul and understand myself and my own journey more. But it's a process. So will you describe a little bit for us? I mean, writing a play is different than writing a novel or something like that. But you're developing characters, you're putting yourself, and you're putting these different people that have had this impact in your life. You're giving them a voice, and you're giving them characterizations. Will you describe for a little bit what your process was like in the composition of this screenwriting and playwriting that you've done?
Well, the first thing is, I grew up in the church, and so I had a very strong spiritual influence, a seed that had been planted in me as a little tiny girl. Through all of this, that was my real saving grace that kept me connected to uh, something outside of myself. And so I had the ability to write plays for the church. And so when Easter would come, when Christmas would come, I started out writing those kind of plays as I, kind of matriculated my way through. And so my mom tells me that at the age of, how was I when I wrote that first one?
7.
At the age of 7, she said that I wrote a play, and I played all three
all the parts.
all three characters. I don't know what that
Awesome.
looked like, but I played all three characters in the play, and
Play.
a Thanksgiving play. She said, remember that, and I did all the parts, and they toured it to different churches. And so with my grandmother, and my grandmother was a missionary, and so she was deeply involved in the church, and she would take me with her, and I would sing and do these plays with all the characters. And that's where it started for me. And from there, it developed into something larger. Did bigger productions, more personnel. I choreographed. So the dance moves, I had dancers. And so it gave me an outlet that I would have never, I would have, if I didn't have this to hold on, I can't even tell you what my life would have been like. But it gave me such a huge outlet, because there was theater, there was acting, there was dance, there was, singing. And so I'm doing third party. And so, it kept me entrenched and engulfed, engaged. And during that time, I was all in, and didn't have time to really think about what had happened to me until that was over, when I would go back to that place.
I see. Yeah. So it makes sense to me from a creativity standpoint that you can lose yourself in the characterization of someone else and lose yourself in a different story. And in a way, maybe, and I'm curious, like, was that part of the appeal of, wait, if I write other characters and if I play other characters, then I don't have to sit here in my own story and all the misery and all of the hell that is here. I can leave this and depart and go into something else that is a whole new world and a whole different place for me to be in. Is that part of what?
Yeah, that's definitely it. The whole persona of third party, that's outside of myself. And so later on, I was able to even develop and cultivate that gift even more so because my mom became a foster parent later on, and so she fostered over 500 kids in the
Wow.
span of 40 years. And so those kids came into the home, and so I took those kids and put that energy into them, and they were doing plays, and so now we're not just, this is not just a catharsis for me, it was clinical for these kids who have been neglected and abused. And this gave them a catharsis. Not only that, a lot of them tapped into gifts that they didn't even know that they had. Some of them were writers, some of them were singers, artists. And so I taught sign language when I taught dance and mime. One of those kids is an interpreter today. I mean, you just never know where that thing is going to land someone else. So in the midst of this helping and healing me, we had a whole population of 500 kids, and every single kid that came through my home as a foster parent and my mother as a foster parent, they knew they had to do something. What role are you going to play? You know, and so we created dancers who never knew they had the ability to dance. Some kids that came in with 2 Club Fred Flintstone feet ended up being dancers that you would have never thought that could flow on the floor so elegantly. Singers, writers, rappers, playwriters came out of those kids. And so we found out that overall it ended up being a happy place for other kids who were damaged, abused, and neglected.
That's such a powerful, man, using art as this total transformational healing experience. That's incredible. And Miss Porter, I tip my proverbial hat to you, and my heart is just swollen with appreciation and respect for 500 children that were loved on and blessed and given such compassion and warmth from you, from both of you. That's such a heartwarming story. So, I mean, thank you. On behalf of people that I don't know, I'm blessed by that experience that you just shared. Thank you so much. And inspired by you, the way you described it, TABATHIA, is you turned Fred Flintstone into Fred Astaire, and that's just that's a beautiful way of thinking about the power of creativity. To when you create that spark within, all kinds of magic comes from that, and we are often not aware of the magic that exists within us. And it takes somebody that is an inspirational person and has an inspirational story and sees that spark in others. And so what I see with both of you is this ability that you have naturally to see the spark, to see the light, to see the God force, the God inside of other people. And I would also, and this is where my next question is coming. I know you're a very spiritual person. You've said that several times. Will you talk about your spiritual journey going through this process of being an innately creative and very, very talented person who also has this trauma that you are dealing with, whether you're addressing it directly or not, or you're kind of running away from it, but your faith is still a part of this whole process. And so at what point did you get to where there wasn't any escaping into the arts to run away from the pain inside, and where your relationship with God had to take a turn and begin a different side of healing?
Well, there was a plethora of feelings, emotions, good and bad. In spite of me having a strong spiritual base, there were times that I was very, very angry with God because I had felt like, what did I do so bad? What could I have done at 11 years old so bad to deserve something so horrific to happen to me? And so I went through a period of time where I was very angry with God, but not having the ability to talk to my mom who was the closest person to me, I always had to go back and piggyback and come back because I didn't have anywhere else to go. There was nothing else to retreat to. And so, in spite of my anger with him, I would still have to go back and conversate, even not understanding why this would happen or how I got there in the first place. And so there were times that I was still strengthened by my conversations with him, and that is where my superpowers came from. And so I do a speaking engagement that says tapping into your superpowers. And something that I learned about this, statistics say that kids excel better academically once they have been exposed to the arts. I got to find that out personally, full circle, watching these kids after. And so we ended up turning it into a behavior modification program, a therapeutic arts program for kids, because we did see behaviors change. We did see gangbangers take off their rags and throw them down and say, I want to try this in my life. I want to do something new. Let's see what else can happen on this other side. I have this new thing inside me that I want to explore. And so when it came to, then it was clinical. Then it became clinical because we could see where the kids were having therapy, and not that it wasn't doing them any good, but there was another force that was bringing stuff out of these kids, and they could act out, feel out, talk out through rap or spoken word or poetry, what was inside of them. And now you start to see breakthrough because we're getting to the core of where the real pain came from. And as foster parents, we got to see the core of that in our floors. They would scream, cry, holler, talk about their anger. Their mom left, they were abused. And so we had an opportunity close up to watch those kids begin to heal. But the breakthrough of getting to the core of where the pain was the biggest thing. And it was the most rewarding thing to let us know that we were on the right track with what we were doing.
I'm so glad you just said like three things that I resonate with and I talk about a lot too. Superpowers, because everybody has them, but oftentimes some of us go through our whole lives before we recognize that that's not just something that's in comic books and superhero stuff. Like, that's a real thing.
It's
like,
real.
You know, for I think for both of us, this creative spark that allows us to be able to see other people in a different light. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your ability through the arts and through your big heart to be able to see the superpowers and the hidden superpowers inside of other people. And since you can see that, you can call it out and you can help to extract it out of them and help them to be able to see themselves in a new way. So they don't see themselves as this broken person that is worthless and just discarded by people that they thought that they loved or were maybe supposed to love them. But now they see themselves in a different way and they're able to view themselves in this different light. But that was one of the things that you said that I resonated with. The other thing that you said that I resonated with was the power of storytelling. And also what you said about, there was a third thing. What is the third thing? The story beneath the story. And there's always a story beneath the story. And that's oftentimes, again, something else that gets, I get the feeling that you are not a surface level person. I think most people that go through difficult, trying experiences, especially because you understand the depths of pain, and everybody that's gone through tremendous amounts of psychological or emotional pain understands the depths of it. It's not just a surface level thing. It's not something you can put a Band-Aid on and it goes away. It's something that is deep inside the heart and deep inside the soul, which means that there is a story underneath the story. And usually there's a story underneath that one too. And when you will take the time to dig deep into that story and keep going and keep going and keep going, and you get down into the roots of it, that's really where the transformation happens. And so kudos to you for investing the time and the energy and also the patience. And it takes a lot of patience with ourselves to go that deep, but also patience with other people in going that deep. But I'm curious because I think this is I would imagine that this is also a part of your legacy, you and your mother, that you are a safe space for people who have been through tremendous amounts of trauma. And because of your own experience and your own ability to sit in the discomfort of that pain and actually allow that to refine you in some ways, now you have the capacity to be able to be that safe space for other people. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
It's funny that you would say that because they call our house the house of healing. And so
House
even
of
though
refuge.
the house of refuge, and
Yeah.
even though my mom has retired from being a foster parent, those same kids and others
Mhm.
come and still, you know, lay on the floor and talk about the things that they're going through, because you got to understand
Mm.
that recovery is a process, and it's over a period of time. I can't tell you how long I went in and out of the process, gifting here, back to trauma, gifting here, back to drugs, gifting here, back to a place of feeling low self-esteem, traumatized, victimized. There's a hodgepodge of feelings that go in there before you get to a place where you can even see yourself being healed. Because what that trauma does to you, it kills your self-worth. It destroys your self-being, your capacity for you to even know who you are or what you have inside of you. And so the process of getting that back is just that. It's a process.
And in that process, one of the other things that is required of it is a lot of persistence. So I'm curious, for all of us have been through different kinds of trials, different kinds of tribulations, and different kinds of traumas. What would you say is something that gave you the ability to have the persistence to continue to pick yourself back up and keep going?
I'm going to tell you, be real honest with it. It was my mother, and I'll tell you why. I didn't tell her what I had gone through until I was 16. I was petrified to do it at that point, but I had grown tired and weary. It had been 5 years of the abuse going on, and I just didn't have the capacity to hold on to the silence any longer. And when I told her, like any mother, she was angry. She was very angry. And then it was time for me to go away to college. And back then, they really didn't have counseling for trauma. That was a
Not a
long
lot,
time
not a
ago,
lot.
very, very
Yeah.
little. People really didn't have.
Swept up under the rug.
Yeah, it was kind of swept up on the rug.
People
And what
didn't talk
happened, people
about
didn't
it.
talk about it. So there really wasn't an outlet to go there. So I went away to college. And when I went away to college, being an only child, my mom decided to be a foster parent. And that's where it started. She was taking sexual abuse classes, and I'll let her tell you about that. But she was obsessed because she was trying to get to the bottom that was happening to her own child. But in the process, it was through these kids. So she was doing training after training. She was traveling all over the country doing sexual abuse classes, trying to get an understanding of why they don't talk, why they don't tell, how they feel the way, why do they act the way, what happens when that behavior that we can't understand. And I watched her pour herself into these kids who were broken, neglected, abused, no self-worth. And I saw those kids start to come back to life. I saw them find destiny and purpose. I saw them leave her home, and after her encouragement, we helped them get in college. We saw some of them go to college, and others went to prison, but she followed them even in their prison stay until they got out, and still connected with them after all of that. And those kids today love her. Their kids are our kids. Their grandkids are our great grandkids. And when I saw that force, it was a power to be reckoned with. When I saw that kind of healing, because she was desperate to really find answers for her own child, but nobody knew about that then. And she poured herself into those kids. And I tell you, it made me want to fight back. It made me want to get back. And before I knew it, the thing that I said I wouldn't do, I ended up being a foster parent too. Why you want with them bad kids? And the next thing I know, she had connected my relatives, neighbors, into the foster care program, and they were opening up their homes to help these kids. And then pretty soon it was a network of all of us engaging as a unit, as a support team for these kids. And it made a difference. It was life-changing.
Wow. So instead of it being, well, you did different kinds of training, obviously, but it also seems like life was the training ground. And the life experiences, the life journey was the preparation for the next step that you didn't necessarily know was going to be coming, but would be the next step for these kids that were coming into your home to be a part of your household. But I see things metaphorically. And metaphorically, I see both of you as these beautiful waterfalls that for a while there was a drought. But then when the rains came, it filled up all the places that need to be filled up. And now there's an overflow. And you're constantly, that waterfall from you is constantly pouring out into other people and pouring out into valleys and creating all kinds of inlets for the flow of love to hit places and people that have been in these severe droughts of feeling desperate, feeling betrayed, feeling forsaken, feeling abused, feeling worthless. And to have those kinds of experiences and then to touch the flow of divine love. And that's what's coming from both of you guys. Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you so much, man. I'm so blown away. Holy cats. I want to hear a little bit about your music though, TABATHIA, because obviously that's something that's a big part of your story as well. And I'm also curious because I heard in your previous interview that you were a backup singer for Johnny Cash, and you mentioned for an Elvis impersonator. But getting into music, like tell us a little bit about that transform that.
John Denver.
Well, the when you get into the music world and from an industry level, you're exposed to a whole nother world. And, you know, dressing up on the stage with the lights, camera, action, crowd of 40,000 people can throw you off your square when you come back to reality place, because then you're in a dream world. You know, you're flying on the planes, the limos are picking you up, you know, and all the glitz and glamour that goes with that. So my cousin was a backup singer as well. And so we traveled, you know, where Johnny traveled and went to the airports. And so that part was a big distraction. But at the same time, I was introduced to a higher level of drugs outside of just smoking a joint. You know, I saw some stuff up close and personal, and I participated, you know, because behind all the glitz and glamour and singing on stage, I was still a girl that was broken, a young woman that was broken. And so I went back and forth, and it was a process. It was a journey, you know, and with that, but you know what? If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't want to do it that way. But because of the way that it happened to me is the reason why where I am today. Had I not seen that dark place, I really wouldn't be able to identify what the real light is in my life now. It took every single bit of the pain, the hurt, the not understanding why, the guilt, the low self-esteem, the drugs, the weight gain. I mean, I gained 100 pounds. I was overweight. I mean, I went through the whole gambit of what trauma does to you and the life of, you know, sex, rock and roll, and drugs. And so the combination of that, now I look at that, that was why I was able to write a book and be so candid and transparent, because behind that is a thought of wanting to help women and children and boys too, who don't talk about it. That's a whole nother entity There's a whole nother thing for boys, abuse, because it's a whole different kind of trauma outside of the trauma. And so it took a lot to get back to this side, but I can tell you that it was worth it, and her impartation, just watching her navigate, because she was navigating in trauma too. She was traumatized by what had happened to me, and I want her I can't tell her words. I want her to tell that part, but just watching her in action, I couldn't believe it. Like, why do you want to deal with kids that got more problems than me? Lord, I was enough. I was a handful. And she couldn't understand what was going on with me. But she poured herself into the hundreds of kids that, when I tell you, we've seen every kind of behavior come in that door. Every mental health diagnosis, dual diagnosis, triple diagnosis. And those walk through the home, she figured out a plan and strategy to how to love them too. All nationalities, all colors, all creeds, all religions, they all ate at her table. They learned, they blossomed, they grew. We watched them. She nurtured them. She loved them in spite of the behaviors that we would see. The behaviors, we're talking glass eaters. We're talking fire starters. We're talking about people kids who have taken their grandparents and put them in a trunk and set it on fire. Those kind of kids. Gangbangers that I looked in the dryer and found a gun. Those kind of kids were the kind of kids. The kind of kids that people really throw away. Those are the kind of kids that she requested. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, what? And before I knew it, she had all of us. And then people were looking at, what's wrong with y'all?
You guys are living proof that love is the greatest of all. Like that, the answer, if we want to categorize it in that way, but love is the deal, the real deal. So I'm guessing, based on what you've shared and based on your story that I've heard so far, there's nothing that somebody can say or do that's going to cause you to be scared, because you've seen it all. You've been to the furthest ends of the spectrum. You know exactly what that looks like. And so no matter what it is, you're just like, okay, cool.
Can't be worse than that. Just can't be.
So tell me about this love. So all of us face fears. All of us experience fears. You've talked about that, because that fear is such a big part of the traumatic experience. What does love look like that transcends all of that pain and all of that fear? Will you tell us a little bit about this love that you are carrying around with you, that you are evoking, that you are radiating? Tell us about this love.
Well, I think I'm going to let her tell it. Did you hear what he said? Okay. I think I'm going to let her, because it came from her. So I want to let her explain that part.
Well, first of all, I was driven because I wanted understanding of what my daughter had gone through, and the fact that she had gone through it for 5 years and I was not aware of it at all. And I didn't recognize the signs. So I had a burning desire to learn more. So when I went into foster care, I took every possible training that I could get to help me not only help my foster children, but to help my daughter and to understand her pain. So not only was I driven to take placements of these teenagers in my home, I recruited my sister, my niece, 3 of my neighbors, my nail technician, people from my church, because I had such a burning desire to help these children. So we all worked together to show them that we could love them, that somebody cared for them, and to help change their lives. And over again. Now, it was not easy because they walked in my door, didn't mean, I didn't mean nothing to them. I had to prove myself. I had to go through a lot, to prove that I was going to be there for them, regardless to the behaviors that I saw. I was in schools. I was in the courts. I was banging on doors when they ran away. I had to prove myself. I'm going to be there for you regardless.
Mm.
So that was one of the ways, some of the ways that showed them that somebody loved them. Somebody cared for them. Somebody wanted to see them be successful. And then when I finally brought my daughter in, who began to teach them arts, we found giftings. What each of these kids would make them happy. Some theater, some signing. I was there at basketball games or whatever, theater at school, choirs at school. I made sure that I attended everything that they were in. I was there. So when they began to find their giftings, it changed their lives. It changed their life because they could feel the difference. They feel like they were somebody.
Change the behavior.
It changed the behavior.
And that's when we started to see behavioral changes.
Right. Yes,
and that's when we saw it became clinical as well.
Yes. That was how we did it. That was how we did it.
So you love people through their pain, and they experience the difference in what that feels like, because it's no longer, oh, I did something wrong and I'm going to get rejected. I've done something else I've done something else to show that I'm not good enough. So you're going to treat me like everybody. Oh, wait, you're not going to treat me like everybody else. You're going to love me. You're going to love me even though I've done all this stuff that I know or don't know is wrong. You're not giving me the same. I'm having a different experience now. You're not giving me the same thing I'm used to getting. I'm used to being rejected. I'm used to being abandoned. I'm used to being thrown away. You're not throwing me away, and you're chasing after me to get me back.
Yes. Yes.
And they would do things to sabotage their placement because they couldn't really believe that this kind of love could be generated.
Right.
So they would steal out of the house.
You're jumping out of windows.
They would jump out of windows.
Running away.
They would set upstairs on fire, and we find them and they're out on the roof. They would burn their flesh with cigarettes.
Yeah,
all kinds of behaviors, and we still stayed there with them.
In spite of.
And that was the key, because that represents to them as an unconditional love. You're loving me not based on this or that. You're loving me even though I'm doing my best to turn you upside down and your household.
If I do this, are you still going to be there for me? And
they would try what this look like, over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So inside of you somewhere, consciously or unconsciously, was a decision that you made over and over and over again. No matter what, no matter who walks in the door, no matter what they do, I choose to love.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you were consciously aware of doing, or is that something that you had to remind yourself about as you're going through the process?
She doesn't hear very well. So he was saying, did you have to remind yourself to keep loving them, or was that something just innately inside you that you were just driven to do?
I was driven to do it. I was driven. I don't think I could help myself because I wanted so bad. And with me seeing their lives change and turn around, it was healing for both of us. It was healing for both of us.
So giving is receiving.
He says so giving is receiving.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Without a doubt. Giving is receiving.
As you're giving this love, you're receiving the healing and you're receiving the love back. The act of giving is the act of receiving.
And to see their lives change is worth it all. It's worth it all.
and the faith that you have and that you have had, that when you show up, when you are there, your love that is erupting out of you, more than like a gigantic volcano, but your love that is erupting out of you, there is going to be a transformation and a change. This person, they might continue to do these things for however long they're going to do them, but they're going to get to the end of the rope at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get to the end of the rope, whenever that is, hopefully it's today, but if it's not, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's next week, maybe it's next year, whenever it is, I'm going to be here for them and still wrap them up in gigantic arms of love and remind them
Yes.
who they are.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's so beautiful.
Absolutely.
So that's the true love story. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the true love story. We have romanticized what true love is, but this is what true love is.
Yes.
True love is no matter what, I am here. No matter what, I love you. No matter what, I choose you. I'm not going anywhere. Throw the kitchen sink, throw the house at me. I'm going to stand here in my solidarity and in my strength and in my passion because I choose to and I want to. And I'm not doing this to get something from you. I'm doing this because it's who I am, who you are, both of you. Who you are is love. And I'm so, okay, gonna put this back up there. Where can we find your book?
Today, the book is actually supposed to drop on Amazon. So it will be on Amazon at some point today and all the other book platforms. We're really excited about it. I guess the trailer scared Facebook. And so we had to take everything down this morning. It was catastrophic this morning, a little bit too much intense for them to handle. So we took everything down. So we want to let everyone know that's watching the show that the book is on Amazon, even though we had to take the trailer and everything related to the book down this morning. And I was, I was feeling a certain kind of way about this morning, but we had to adhere to all the protocols and community standards. So we took it all down today, but we are on Amazon. We are on Barnes and Nobles and all the other book platforms, and that's where we're going to be.
Okay, awesome. So I've got one other question regarding your healing journey and also regarding your true love story, which is so beautiful. Forgiveness is a big part of love, and also a big part of what it is you're sharing about talking about these experiences that you've had with all of these kids, because part of unconditional love is unconditional forgiveness. So will you tell us a little bit about how your experience with forgiveness from a personal side and also from this experiential side with all of these other people, how has your understanding of forgiveness deepened over these years of repeatedly forgiving people for the same things, and then also looking at yourself and going, okay, I know I've done some of these same things. I choose to forgive myself. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm glad that you brought that book up, because the whole book is really based on forgiving. That's what the whole premise of the book is. Because the thing is this, when you hold on to unforgiveness, you attach the very thing that was committed to you. You Velcro it to yourself. And now you're walking with a ball and chain. And so the forgiveness is not even for the other person. It's for you. It's so that you can heal. It's so that you can find yourself. It's so that you can make a place, find a new place out of the darkness and into the light. And a lot of my lifetime, I didn't want to forgive because I felt like it was letting him off the hook. I felt like I should hold on to this somehow in that hatred. It'll make that person pay, but it doesn't. It actually holds you back. It stifles you and it connects you to the thing that was committed against you so that you can't get out of the hole, get out of the trap. Forgiveness sets you free so that you can find yourself, so that you can find what that new beginning is, and you can grab it, you can touch it, you can feel it, and you can let it take you to the next dimension of your life. And so you can take that pain and make it purpose, that you can find that destiny place in yourself. and actually get there. It's a process, but you got to understand all the components that get you from point A to point B. And the forgiveness is the P, and is the main thing. And I held on to that way too long. So my message is, do yourself a favor. Forgive, forget, and move forward to your place of purpose and destiny, because there is one.
Yeah. Well, that's so powerful. It was communicated to me years ago when I was going through a process of continuing to revisit pain over and over and over again, and being angry and upset at people that I felt had wronged me. And one of my mentors said, unforgiveness is holding on to a burning coal, but expecting the other person to feel the burn. And when I thinking about things metaphorically and being empathic, I was like, I don't like the way coal feels in my hand. That sounds terrible. So I'm really doing this to myself. I'm really holding on to all of this pain, thinking that's going to cause somebody else to feel hurt, and that any of that's going to change anything for the better. It's not.
It's not.
Well, drop that.
Drop it.
Drop that and move forward. And the release that comes from the forgiveness is a really, really beautiful thing as well. And the forgiveness of, I want to ask you about this, the forgiveness of yourself, because we can hold on to that coal against ourselves as well. And we can go back and in a way, our minds are kind of conditioned to do this, to go back and if we're blaming other people for things, we're also blaming ourselves for stuff and replaying old memories of things that we've gotten wrong and ways that we've screwed things up or whatever. Talk about forgiving yourself for just a moment.
You know what? That was, in this process, the hardest thing for me after coming out of the drug situation, was to forgive myself for being in that place, to go back and look at my mother in her face after all I had put her through, her wondering if I was okay, if I was going to be okay, if she was going to get a call, all those things that a parent thinks. I'm her only child. What she went through on top of her own trauma, her own pain, her own guilt for feeling like she wasn't there when it happened to me. She had to process all that. And now I come back to her after being clean and everything, still having feelings of not wanting to forgive myself, because you can't go back and fix your past. And that's a daunting thought that's in your brain if you allow your brain to go there. But it was her that she encouraged me all the way through it. She lifted me up. She said, you can do it. You can't go back and fix your past. You can't go back and relive those moments. But what you do today is what matters. How you create a bright spot right now is what makes a difference. How you impact and engage with others today, that is what the true testament of all your pain and suffering is. Where you are now and how you impact others and help them come out of that dark place. And that's what did it. I had to really stop thinking about me, I, because that's where I was. I can't get those past days back. I can't get this back. But guess what? The impartation of what we've been able to do since then, the Bible says love covers a multitude of faults. And it did, and it works, and it's real.
Wow. So you've had multiple mic drop moments. There was another one there. Tibby, thank you so much for that. This conversation has been a gigantic blessing to myself personally. I know it's blessed every single person that has been here. You and your mother are two of the most beautiful souls on God's green earth, and it is a joy and an honor to have spent this past hour getting to talk with you guys. I want to do this one more time. Please tell us, let me put it up here. Please tell us where your book is available at.
Broken Pieces will drop, or has dropped. Today is the official day. Yay! That's the first time I get to really say that. It's like, this is
Yeah.
real. You know, I think up until today, it was a picture in my mind. It was a visual. It was a feeling. And today I woke up and I was like, yes, yes. And then I looked on Amazon on Facebook, and Facebook said, no. And I, you know, it kind of quenched my spirit. And I came downstairs and I told my mom, and my mom was walking through the house. Listen to this. Thanking and praising God. And I'm like, I'm about to jump off the Tallahatchie Bridge. They're taking my stuff off of social media. She said, don't you understand when one door closes, another one opens? She said, wait for the open door. And she's going through the house on her walker. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And I'm like, huh? And then I had to check myself, because that's what got me through this whole ordeal. I got to keep thanking her over and over and over again. She snatches me out of that stupid place that I go to from time to time. You know, when things happen, like I was so mad this morning about that. I was like, what? I'm affected by this greatness. She said, oh, girl, small fries. You did the book. This is going somewhere. The message is going to get out. We're talking love. And when you talk love, it moves. It changes the atmosphere. It changes the dynamics of things. Get out of yourself. Get over it.
Amen, Mom. Well, and she's already taught that lesson before. You stand in the face of fear without having fear. You stand in the face of fear and you bring love. Love changes fear into love. You stand in the face of Facebook deciding to be silly and banning you for whatever, and thank you, God, that now an extra 5 million people are going to see it.
Okay.
An extra 10 million people are going to experience it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, that because this one thing happened, I'm claiming a bigger blessing, a bigger opportunity, a bigger way of expression, and a big, even more people being impacted by this.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
That's what this is. And you have already lived the story numerous times. Your mom has already lived the story over 500 times. Well, 500 people. Let's take each person probably has had 1,000 experiences. So you've got 500,000 examples of how changing the thought, changing the energy, changing the feeling, going in a different direction, the opposite of if what you're looking at is the opposite of what you want to experience, then you go in the direction of what you want to experience, and that's what you think about. And that's the transformation agent. You are living proof of that 500,000 times.
500,000 times.
Yes. Wow.
And we can 10x that and make it 5 million. So you've got 5 million reasons to believe in the absolute best. You both are the absolute best. It has been my absolute joy and privilege and honor to get to spend this hour with you and hear your story, experience your wisdom, and above all, experience your energy and your love. You are beautiful, amazing people. Thank you for everything that you have done, are doing, and are going to continue to do to bless countless people all over the place.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
You were amazing.
Yeah.
You really were amazing with this, allowing us not just to come, but you asked, provoking questions so that the audience could really, we could answer and they could really get an understanding of how this thing went. And you did a great representation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. I appreciate you. Well, guys, we're at the top of the hour. You know what that means? It means we are concluding. Hey, if you're like, I love Vitamin D Grant and everything, but where's Lauren and when is he coming back? Okay, he'll be back on Monday and he'll be live from Boston. So tune in on Monday. Hope you guys have a marvelous, wonderful, amazing, and blessed weekend full of abundance and peace and joy and love. Carry the love that you experienced here with us today. Carry it with you everywhere you go because love is who you are. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you again soon.
your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How explicit do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. But you,
Why can't we do another?